And good morning, everybody. I'm Frank Spellers with Rural Community Solutions. Welcome to Rural Community Solutions TV live stream. Here at Rural Community Solutions, we help assist communities designing family-friendly, youth-centered places that attract people. Today, we're going to be talking about the role of a community foundation. So stay tuned and come on back as we talk about what role a community foundation can play in your community prosperity. Be right back. And there we are back. And look, look who's on time.
I have appeared. So, I'm Kim Spillers. Thanks for joining Rural Community Solutions today. Boy, if you are a community foundation, today is the day for you.
Even if you're not a community foundation, today and yesterday and tomorrow is the day for you.
That's what we
actually think. What we want to help you do is explain a role that the community foundations can play in your community that will help with systemic issues around what your vision is for your community, but also involving them. So we're going to be talking through some steps really quick today about the role of community foundations in your community prosperity.
So, gosh, let's just get going.
Well, if you're talking about, if you go into, have you ever gone to your coffee shop? Okay, go into your coffee shop and listen. These days, let's go online and listen to what people are talking about your community about. Are they talking about population decline? Are they talking about lack of housing? Are they talking about people are just changing location? Or how about we're losing our youth demographic? And if you were with us yesterday, we talked about as the youth leave your community, all right, what is happening in your community? A lot of times we talk about the brain drain. Well, we don't believe in brain drain. Because the brain drain's definition is you're losing your best and your brightest. And we don't feel that your best and your brightest are leaving. You might be losing some, but really what you're losing is people that are taking risks because they're leaving your community. They're leaving the familiar and moving someplace else to the unfamiliar. One where they might fit in, one where they might not fit in, but they are actually an entrepreneur. They are taking the risk, going someplace else out of their comfort zone. So are you a community that's looking outside of yourself, outside of your comfort zone to what you have always done and continue to get what you've always got? Because you're afraid to take that risk. So if you're losing your risk takers, you are taking away a segment of your community that will take risks. And that's not beneficial. Specifically this day and age with the COVID, because we want you to re-examine where you are as a community to move forward. And what role does a community foundation take in that?
That's the way our communities started, was with people who took risks. They left their homes, they left their families, they came west here in the United States. And those are the people who started our communities. And we need to have that risk-taking energy. We need to have that comfort that, we're going to give something a try, see whether or not it works. See if we can make some new thing like Cabela's or some absolutely new, brilliant sort of invention. And so taking risks is a really important part of community life. So, but today's talk, we're talking about community foundations.
Well, all week we've been talking about how to transition into a changing environment for your community. And that is, we talked about how to create that vision. You need that vision to know where you are, where you want to go. What's it going to look like? And we suggest a 25-year plan. And so we can get more into that. You give us a call, we'll get more into that with why we think a 25-year plan is beneficial for your community. Also, we talked about developing broadband capabilities. And when we explained about broadband capabilities, we said it's not just about the hardware. It's not just about broadband fiber coming into your community and everybody having access to it. You have to have a mindset for broadband. What are you going to be doing with it? How is your community going to transition into a high-tech broadband-based community? There's a system to that. Then yesterday we talked about entrepreneurship, and entrepreneurship is, you know, that creative atmosphere of how entrepreneurs can become what they want to become and pursue their passion of building a product that people will pay money for. That's what entrepreneurship is. And does your community support entrepreneurship, or do you just let entrepreneurship happen by itself? Well, if you are to create entrepreneurial wealth, you need to take specific steps to get that done. And here at Rural Community Solutions, our specific steps are to build relationships, create community engagement, build collaboration around your commuting workforce, around your region with communities. You have to build that collaboration, and that will build entrepreneurial wealth. And entrepreneurial wealth is a creative atmosphere that helps people have a passion and develop their passion for what they want to be. So today we're going to be talking about the role of a community foundations. And let's define what a community foundation is. For those of you that don't know, or you might have looked in your newspaper and your community foundation had a cycle and they threw out some money to some organizations, normally nonprofit organizations, that needed an extra $1,000, $1,500, $2,500. Well, we're going to be talking in grander numbers than that today. But community foundations are grant-making public charities. They're public charities that are dedicated to improving the lives of people in a defined local geographic area. Defined local geographic area. So it could be on your county basis, it could be on your state basis, it could be anything like that in a defined geographical area, okay? They bring together the financial resources of individuals and families and businesses to support their communities. Now, this is the important part of that. Over the next 30 years, even less than that, up to 30 years, okay? Between now and 30 years from now, we are going to have a transfer of wealth in this country that is unparalleled, unequaled to any transfer of wealth from one generation to the next. In other words, this generation that earned the money is dying out, and they are then willing their assets to their generation below them, to their kids, to their families, to organizations. And what is your community doing to capture that wealth? The
reason this matters is that if, let's say, you grew up in a certain area, you retired and you ended up dying in a certain area, but your children or your grandchildren to whom you have willed that money, those assets, that property, whatever, land, whatever it happens to be, if they don't live in that county or in that geography, then those dollars are going to leave. They could go to a different state. They could go to a different country. So it matters to the health of the community that you have left, literally, whether or not those dollars somehow are captured and brought back in, retained to do good in the community of your birth, if that's what you want to do. So that's why this matters to community development and legacies.
And that's what universities and colleges and post-secondary education institutions have really have done a good job of this over the course and created a culture of the alumni are really associated with that institution, and they keep that relationship going, and they keep asking for money through their university foundation. And many times then land gets transferred to the university for the university to use, to earn off of, and to build some residual income off of. But then also, once they sell that asset, they get all the proceeds at the university, or that foundation that is not in your community, that is not focused on the needs of your community. Sometimes also, when, as Kim was saying, when the family moves away, that money, so you lose the bond of the family to the community. Or sometimes then that community will write to the family member asking for money back, but there is no connection, no relationship with the funder and with the wealth basically from the community. And so you need to build those relationships to keep that going, to keep the individuals involved in the community and the community needs. And when you build that relationship, then that community can capture the wealth back into the community and use it for the prosperity of that community, because you have that local connection all the time.
So one of the things that we want you to think about is that if you know enough about a community foundation, to think, oh my gosh, all we do is we fill out an application every year or twice a year or something like that, and we get some gravel for our walkways or something like that. That's using a community foundation as a piggy bank. And what we're encouraging community foundations to consider is having a bigger role in the community, in the county, as a leader. It's a really valuable asset because you're a little bit apart, because you're not a city entity, you're not a county entity in terms of employment, but you have dollars that people have invested as memorials. Say someone dies and they want to invest money in the community foundation to be reinvested in the community. And so the foundation has a wonderful opportunity to be able to take a role as a leader in, okay, let's be strategic about what do we want this community to look like in the next 5, 10, 25 years? And what kind of strategic investments, impact investments can we make to be able to get the result that we see would be really valuable for that next generation? So that's something, if you are involved in any way in a community foundation or a community member, you might want to take on just a little bit of thinking about that and how to strengthen those financial ties to your community investment and reinvestment to look at your future and what that could be like.
So with community foundations, what we're talking about, we're going to talk a little bit about legal structure here. Community foundations are, through your state, defined as a nonprofit corporation. Now, nonprofit doesn't mean they can't make a profit, just nonprofit means their profits has to be put back into that organization. That is by your state, okay? That's a state designation, is what type of corporation are you? Then the nonprofit organization will apply to the Internal Revenue Service, the IRS, to designate this nonprofit organization as a what's called in the chapter 501 in section C3. So it's a 501 3C or 501c3, 3C, whichever way you want to, whichever way you want to talk about it. It's a designation by the IRS about your tax status. Now that is that all nonprofits are not 501c3s, all 501c3s are nonprofits. Okay, that's clarification. There's many nonprofits within your community, but they're not all tax deducted the same way. So the community foundations are 501c3s that will allow you to give the money as a tax donation. And then there's certain ways you can handle that on your taxes. And so foundations then are in most of the foundations giving rules. They will give to other nonprofits within your community. They won't give money to a private business. Okay? They'll give to a nonprofit to distribute those funds. So that's just a designation. And so if you are a business out there or an individual and you want to go to the foundation for that, other than designated funds. And there's many different ways that the giving can be. But if you're a business or something, try to go to a foundation to get a business loan. That won't work on there because foundations are not set up that way. So that's just some type of the legal structure that you might want to talk to. There's different functions out there. I am talking here in generalities. So if you're a foundation that's listening and that's not your legal structure, I'm just talking in generalities here that is helping a community understand the role that you play and helping the community understand the role a community foundation plays within their community. So if you are a community, you want you want your community foundation to work with you, be at the table to make those decisions. So a community foundation must do these things, okay? They have to keep your community's wealth at home for local growth and long-term vision. Don't put into play, community foundations can, or your wealth can leave your community. You need to have that structure within your community that's going to capture the wealth. Community foundations need to be an active part of your community, not a passive giving organization, all right? Okay, and then community foundations must be more than just a piggy bank. Like I said, and like Kim said, they have to be at the table making those decisions. You have to have a plan of what is your community addressing, what type of issues is your community addressing in the long term. And that's why we say 25 years out, because you're creating that culture. So we can talk more one-on-one about that if you want. So a community foundation also needs to be a leader with a voice at the community table, making those decisions, and being a part of the planning process. In chamber work, we had a saying, and I was an executive director of a chamber of commerce. And as a saying goes, is if they write it, they will underwrite it. People that help plan the process, people that help put plans into place and are part of the discussion, are part of the solution of how they are going to address a problem, will help you and support what they helped write. And that's what they say. So bring a community foundation in early. Don't make a plan and then go to the community foundation and say, here, fund this. Help the community foundation create your plan. And identify those really hard to reach issues. We call those issues the issues that you have swept under the rug. Issues such as drug abuse, issues such as how you treat immigrants, issues such as
school
mergers, poverty rates within your community, food scarcity within your community outside of the pandemic. And not just because of the pandemic. That's a specific issue. And a lot of community foundations are focused on this crisis right now. But there's more of what that can be done outside of a crisis.
And so the bigger idea, the bigger concept here is that funding bike trails and playgrounds and things like that are very important community amenities. But we're encouraging communities to look at the foundation and encourage foundations to think much, much bigger than that, because your infrastructure, your projects are going to be much more sustainable long-term if you address the culture of the people who live there and the needs that they have on a very long-term basis. And that's what we're encouraging is both small project and long-term large thinking.
And so a community foundation must then help identify and co-fund the long-term sustainable process that benefit the future of your community. Right? That's that long-term look of how are we going to sustain and how are we going to change our culture. And a good example of this is we are working on a project that has been studied by a partner of ours, Don Mackey, in the community, in a community that has looked at the culture. And for the last 20 years, they have been studying this community of the culture. And now they are documenting and have documented how people have built the relationships, how they have engaged people within that community to really address the long-term sustainability of a community. And they have then put their money where the efforts are to help sustain that and help the long-term process. Did it happen overnight? No. That's why it's been a 20-year process, because the first 10 years, we're getting organized. We're getting people to trust the process, people to trust in the process. And how they do that? They ask questions and they listened. They listened to the marginalized groups out there that might have been separated because they didn't feel they were listened to. So this, if you're addressing the issues of today in your community, of bringing groups together, of bringing groups together to talk, of helping those communities get over some of the systemic issues that you might have swept under the rug for a long time, this is where the model really takes hold. And so we want to help. And give us a call, because we would love to help you, or you can just email us. We want to hear your comments on these issues and these processes, and how can we help your community move forward. Might not be directly, it might just be through a conversation. It just might be you need to bounce some ideas off of some people. We're here to help you get through that. And so email us, make a comment on our Facebook page, make a comment on our YouTube channel here, follow us, check out the videos that we have. We have over
more than 100.
More than
we
100.
Have more than 100 videos out now, because we have been talking since since last August of 20. And we have all kinds of topics out there for community growth, development, ideas, things to spur you on and energize you to help your community come out of this pandemic in a much stronger position that is going to lead you into the future.
So if you're really interested in this and you want to watch the videos or see the videos, go to our YouTube channel at Rural Community Solutions TV. That's our YouTube channel. Or you can go on the podcast, because what we do is we just strip the audio out of our videos and create the podcast. So at anchor.fm/Frank Spillers, you can find our podcast, Think Like an Entrepreneur, become a spark plug, and you can just listen to all of our video programs on podcast form, and you can still get the same content. You just don't get to see her beautiful face all the time. Okay. And so that's one of the benefits of watching the video. and I have a face for radio. And so you can then listen to my voice.
And his handsome, see his handsome face.
I know. I just had to zing that one in there. So we really appreciate you watching us. We're here Monday through Friday at 11:30, and we're still just going to grind away here.
And offer great content.
And help you create a good community.
That's right. So if you do have an email, for those of you on the podcast, if you want to reach out to us, it's frank@ghorizons.com or kim@ghorizons.com. We would love to have a chat with you.
So come on back tomorrow as we talk about how rural community solutions can help your community emerge from COVID-19.
Have a wonderful day. Thanks so much for joining us. Take care and make great choices.
Bye, guys. Have a great day. I'm going out and shovel again. Yeah.